Hi, I'm Charlie Collins, and this is the Donegal Sport Hub Donegal Daily Championship Podcast, brought to you in association with Kelly Centra, multi-award-winning store, Mountaintop Letterkenny, providing 24-hour service, 7 days a week. And you're very welcome to our podcast. The Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure Championships are coming to a finale. Still some action this weekend. In fact, it's a huge weekend. And of course, the junior finals will be the following weekend. But we're going to look back over the weekend gone by. Big results there, of course, for a number of clubs. And we're going to look forward to the intermediate and senior championships as well. And there's an important relegation situation in the senior championship to be sorted out this coming weekend also. John Harn and Danny O'Donnell are with me. Lads, you're welcome. We're going to start with the hurling finals. Dunloe beating Rua in the junior final. Great celebrations there. They're having a great season, the Dunloe club. They're in two finals this weekend coming. Their under 15B won championship in Convoy last week, and their ladies have done very well as well to reach a county final. Danny, Dunloe 2-14, Rua 1-13. They were beaten in last year's final. They've bounced back to take a junior title. Well done to them. Yeah,
great achievement, Charlie. And they didn't just lose last year's final. I think they've lost 7 finals, that particular group, since they came together. So it's great to get over the line for them. Their captain, Damien O'Sullivan, a Limerick lad, would have played along with us in the Murray a number of years ago. The couple of lads from our own club involved as well. But the bulk of them are Dunloe men. Yeah. And it was a great achievement and a great victory for them. And I watched one or two clips back on Facebook, and that Sean McGee scored a great point from the sideline. I think that's the same Sean McGee that's on the football team this weekend. Yeah, so right, they have dual players there as well. So great achievement, great lift for the club. The under 15s winning the Division 2. The seniors are in the final. So real positive vibe about Dunloe, and it's great for them. Yeah, you know. And after the disappointment of last year, losing their place in senior championship, no better way to bounce back and to have all this success. Yeah, and I think we said this in here a couple of times, that when Dunloe's senior team came down to intermediate, I think somebody remarked that they saw a big crowd training one morning before a game. Yeah, that buzz was there. So when you get, whether it be your club, particularly a club senior team, whether it be ladies or men, if they're going well in football or hurling, it lifts the spurs of everybody, and then everybody rolls in behind that, and it creates a big buzz and a big positivity. And I mean, that's just communities coming together, Charlie. That's what J clubs are about. And if you can get 3 or 4 teams going well, it gives you a huge boost. And Dunloe this weekend, intermediate final, as you said, are coming off A and B. Yeah. You know, so but that's 4 teams in that club in the last 2 weekends that have been pushing towards, and even their ladies team were in the final as well. So yeah, and at this time last year, Dunloe probably as a club were down in the dumps in terms of their senior men being relegated. So within 12 months it all lifts. So there's a lesson there for a lot of other clubs too. Absolutely. I suppose. Huge celebrations in O'Donnell Park, John. I know you had to miss it because you were away with the Masters. I'm sure you'd love to have been there. St Eunice beating Setanta. Nobody expected that.
Terry, nobody expected it. And if I've had a notion at all that the game would have been close, I would have been texting Liam Breen Saturday morning to tell him that I had a sore foot or something, that I wouldn't have gone to the Masters. But Terry, we were up in Cavan with the Masters, and we won it easy, and came out for the dress room afterwards, and Sean McIntyre was on the phone. And he said the hurlers won by a point. And I said, Sean, you wind me up. He says, I'm on the phone here to my wife. He says, she said it. She said they won by a point. I was in shock, Charlie. I was absolutely delighted. I could have cried. And I just could not believe that they'd won by a point, because I know last week we didn't give it much of a mention, but we just thought Setanta were going to steamroll it. You know, I think that was
for obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons, Jerry, and there's no point saying otherwise. The form book was there that Setanta were going to win it again, easy enough. But just getting all the reports, Charlie, and my young fella was at it, and my wife Nicola was at it, and she says, such excitement. She says, you need to get that hurling crowd over to Balbafay for the footballers. She never seen a St Eunice crowd as emotional and as engaged in a match, and she's going to matches now a long time. So, you know, just to see, I went back to Blake's then on Saturday night, and all the boys were there, and Paddy Flood, and you know, all the people that Charlie that put years and years and more than Paddy Flood, and
taking some knocks along the way.
Taking some knocks, Charlie. You know, to start the whole thing from zero, way back maybe in the early 90s. I think Paddy was saying when Paddy was playing for Burton, and he came and was actually Gabriel Flood, a good townie with no hurling background, that kind of got the thing going in the club maybe around 94. So, you know, for a whole generation of people, Charlie, that put their time and effort into it, and the fact that it was so many of our own players, Terry, that had come through the academy, that had come through the underage system, was very satisfying too. You always have a few blow-ons, and you'll get that, and St Eunice has always been full of blow-ons, and our club has always been welcoming to blow-ons, and my own fellow was a blow-on, so you know, it's always been part of our club, and it's great to have them. But to have our own boys that have come through the system, backbone in the team, and for Sean McVeigh to get man of the match, just brilliant, Cherry. Absolutely.
I missed the first 15 minutes because I was out of the junior semi-final, but I have to say the second half, St Eunice had a lead and then they got a goal to go 6 points up, but then they were hanging on the last 15 minutes. I mean, I have to show a bit of bias as a St Eunice man. Your heart was in your mouth. You kept thinking Satanta will get a goal and they'll win this game. But the effort of both teams put into it, but particularly Eunice as underdogs, a lot of young players, and they won their first championship in 50 years or something?
49 years, Terry. 1972 was a great year for the club, as you'll remember. You captained the minors to championship, and we did the senior double in football and hurling, so that was 1972. And then hurling died away, Terry, then I think maybe from the late 70s. There was no hurling in the club, and then a few people came along then in the early 90s and kind of started to revive it. And
Dennis Murphy's a name.
Dennis Murphy's was a name, a Wexford man, and Dennis was there for a long time. And then Paddy Flood was there, and Eugene Organ and Ewan O'Donnell came along, and Eddie Gaffey and Pat Carlin was there for a while too. So great men, and Paddy Lennon there too, out in the IT, did a lot of work, and Billy Bennett, all them. Charlie, probably leaving out names now, but brilliant for all them people, and brilliant for the club, and it's just great lift for everyone. Charlie,
heads up to Dunlow and St Eunice hurlers, well done to them. Let's move on to the Junior A Championship semi-finals. I have to tell both of you that there's complaints about you. I was telling Tommy before you came in, the complaints about the boys. The only man they're not complaining about this week is my good self so far. Letterkenny Gales not too happy with you, John, tipping Narossa to beat them. And Danny, I have to say, Downing's more than happy that you got it wrong when they beat Cairndonagh. So John, start with you again. The Gales, listen, they got a goal right in the first few seconds, and that goal kept them ahead the whole way. Narossa came back at them strong in the second half, but they just about held out to reach the final. And credit to them, because the way they've been performing, we thought there might be a chance Narossa might beat them.
Yeah, I suppose that good start kept, as you said, Charlie, kept Narossa at arm's length for the Gales. I suppose semi-finals are all about winning, Charlie. The performance, you can look at the performance afterwards, but you have to make sure you're in the final first of all, and the Gales are there, and they'll be happy enough with that there. I think young Ronan Freen's going to be out for the season, Charlie. I think he's got a punctured lung.
And Conor McBurdy didn't start.
So they're two big players for them, and forwards is what you need. When you're coming to the tail end of the championship, you want your forwards on the pitch that can score and get you the scores. You can always find the defenders can do a job, so that's going to be a big blow to the Gales. But listen, Charlie, they're in a final, and they'll be happy enough with that there. I suppose from the Ross's point of view, I think John Paul McCready came on and
did very well,
and a great warrior too for Narossa, John Paul. So disappointing for Narossa, Cherry, but I suppose the Gales just that wee bit
just
better on the day.
They just were the better team, and I say Narossa came back at them strong in the second half, but they got a couple of vital points, and they made a couple of changes that worked well for them as well. People coming off the bench, which is key in a tight match like that.
Absolutely, and I think chatting to a few people that were at the match, Jerry, I think that the Gales did a good enough job, and young Killian Boner too kind of tied him up, which he was going to be a big player for Narossa. So probably got a few matchups right. And when it comes down to tight games like that, Jerry, you want certain players to stand up and count, and I suppose the Gales had more of them players just on the day.
Sure. Cairndonagh 9, Downing's 14. Danny, I was at that game in Convoy, and Downing's, I think they went 4-1 up, and they were 7-3 or 7-4 up at half time and kept it. Cairndonagh made a bit of a run at it in the second half, but just never got to within real striking distance of them.
No, they probably needed a goal, Charlie. I think they go back to 7-5, 8-6. I was following that game on Twitter, and just for the Downings men and women that might be watching, it was a lot easier for me to tip Cairndonagh than Downings. I'm working up there, but in my defence, I said Downings Gales final, they already started this championship.
Yes.
But to be fair to Cairndonagh and Narossa, they blew this championship wide open.
They did.
With the two wins they had, Narossa versus Downings, Cairndonagh versus the Gales. But Downings forward power was the key. Lorcan Connor, young McGrady, and that's where their strength is. And I think for the Gales in the final, they'll have to curb particularly those two players. They're going to win this final. But Cairndonagh probably relying a lot on Conor O'Donnell.
They did.
I think he scored 5 points when they picked up an injury at the end.
Well, picked up
listen, Charlie, I've seen that lad at school. He's a top player.
Class act.
And I hope he gets his chance with the county this year, because he has certainly a lot to offer. We've seen that in the couple of cameos he got. But Cairndonagh will be disappointed, because after that win against the Gales, they felt that they were probably the team that could go on and win this. But Downings have plenty of experience playing junior championship. They know how to get over the line. And they're going to be formidable opposition for the Gales. That's going to be a good final.
Key moment, I think, that the Gales, Downings were 3 up at the time, and deservedly so. And Carndonagh worked a goal chance for Eric Roberts, and John McGrady, the goalkeeper, made a very good save diving to his left. I think that would have brought it back level at that time. Now, I'm not saying it would have made a change to the end result, but it would have certainly brought Carndonagh really into it.
It would have, and it probably would have given them that belief then to drive on, because in any championship match, if you get a goal, say midway through the second half and you've been behind, that gives you massive belief going into the last 10 or 15 minutes. So the fact that they didn't get that key score allowed Downey's to keep that breathing space of 3 or 4 points up. And look, they were well deserving winners in the end up. So look, the two best teams in the junior championship going into it have made the final. So
that's what you want. So
absolutely,
it's like for a mouth-watering final when you're the two best teams. And
the fact that both have had to work hard to do it is a good thing as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and it shows again the competitive nature of club football in the county, Charlie. You know, all these championships have been, bar New Connell going into the senior final, everybody else has lost. No, Donegal haven't lost a game either.
No,
but,
that's right.
You know, it's been competitive, and look, it's going to make for a great final. I think all three finals at the men's situation are good finals. Good finals. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that final next week on the show, because it's put back from this weekend to the following weekend. Gaels are also in the Junior B final. They take on Leith Patrick of Lifford. Senior Championship, we'll move on to that then. 2 key games at the weekend. We're down to the semi-final stage, John. Big derby in O'Donnell Park, Glenswilly, Termon. 17 points to Glenswilly, 2-6 to Termon. I covered that game. It was tight at half-time. There was only a point between them, but the 2 goals kept Termon in the game, really. Glenswilly were always the better side and moved away, despite the fact that Michael was less than 100% fit, much less, but he still made a big contribution.
He did, Charlie, and I suppose Copper was missing too, and we, the brother, Keelan, I think Copper was suspended. Yeah, Michael, you could maybe say he was at 20%. The man could hardly move, but what he could do was not tap over freeze, kick freeze at vital times from out the field. Anytime he got the ball, he made good use of it, and he came out the field bits and pieces. But he was far from fully fit, Cherry. So I say from Termon's point of view, they're probably going into thinking we'll never have a better chance of beating Glenswilly. But Cherry, I was very impressed with Glenswilly's other players. Yeah. And if you look at the age profile of them, Cherry, they're very young.
Very young.
And they played very well, kicked 17 points, some great points. Cormac Callan kicked a couple of good points outside of the foot.
Kevin Marley,
nice points, Cherry, from out the field. They're not afraid to have a go. Oisin Crawford playing well.
Kicked a good point. Shane McDavid kicked a good point as well.
So I was impressed with Glenswilly. Cherry, they were always the better team. They're always the better team. As you say, the goals kept Termon in it, and Termon are really struggling now, Cherry. That's what's that, 6 games in a row they've lost, or 7 at this stage in the championship. They haven't got a victory. So I suppose Bundoran are going into it in the same way. So it's do or die for them teams now. But I'm impressed with Glenswilly, Charlie, and obviously they'll be happy to keep their senior status.
Big relief for them, because it means a lot to them, and they just missed out in a quarter-final spot down in St. Knowles by a minute or so. The same against Ardra, conceded a late goal, and before they got the last couple of points, Termon were still within reach if they got another goal, But as John says, Glenswilly, the better side.
The better side, and I was at that game and I thought their young players really stood up. I thought Kevin Marley, I was chatting to his dad on the way out, he was actually in bed all week with sickness, and I think he had a sore ankle going into the game. But I've watched this lad for a while. I think he has real potential. I don't know if he played county under 20. I think he might have. But somebody should be having a conversation with him, because he has a lot of good attributes. Jack Gallagher back at number 6 from the under 20s was key. Keelan Dunleavy. They have a number of good young players, and John's right. You've got Michael Murphy there still directing operations for them. Keelan Kelly still a big player for them. So they have a lot of stuff going for them. They're outside that top 4, but I think they might still be the 5th or 6th best team in the county. And I think if these young lads can keep developing. And they have a minor team that made a minor final this year, so they will feel, getting Copper back next year, they'll still feel that they can have a real dent in the senior championship, especially if the top 1 or 2 teams slide back towards them a wee bit, which might happen.
Squad size may be a problem, because when they were going very well, they had a very good bench as well. I don't think their bench is as strong now as it was
as
then.
It used to be. And if you think back to their heyday, it was their bench and the lads coming off the bench that were like so Colin Kelly was involved with the team at the time, and they had good players coming off, but they've lost big players like Leon Kelly hasn't been around for them, and Ward from fullback has left them as well. So they're in transition, but it's a quick enough transition.
But when I seen Big Chesney there, Charlie, Chesney was man of the match.
That's right.
Big, strong young fella. He's kind of gone away, but I've seen him back in the bench. They need to get all them kind of players out, and there's plenty of football and that big lad. So Glenswilly, Danny says they have a lot of good young players, Charlie. I was impressed enough.
Do you know what I liked about that game as well? And it's been a trend in the senior championship. The refereeing I think Seamus let it go and let it up. Fair bit of physicality without it being, and the boys got really stuck into each other.
They did.
There's a great incident towards the end when Michael Murphy's out on the stand. I think 3 or 4 men tried to put him out over the line. He rode the tackle. The ball broke, and himself and Johnny McCaffrey went hell for leather, ball on the ground. Nobody flinched, nobody cried, nobody just got up and got on with it. So, and I think a lot of chat at different times this number of weeks about, are there too many teams playing senior championship? I've seen a number of these so-called relegation games, and they've been competitive games.
Absolutely.
And nobody wants to be relegated.
Yeah.
That's very, very obvious. And I think when Termon and Bundoran meet now, is it this weekend? It'll
This
be
weekend,
another hell for leather
Saturday night,
game, But look, you'd have concerns for Termon. I think I thought they played reasonably well early on in this game.
They did.
And the goals definitely get the platform.
Losing Dara was a big blow to them, obviously.
Massive. And you put that along with McCormick and along with Keelan McDade being missing. That's their firepower gone.
Yeah.
But they've got, not Jamie Grant drives them time and time again from fullback, good player. Ryan McFadden in midfield. That goal they scored after 10, 15 seconds was good a goal, as you'll see all year. So,
absolutely.
Look, Termon will still believe they can take Bundoran, and because this Bundoran team seemed to be in some kind of free fall.
They got a walloping, John, didn't they?
Got a walloping most weeks, Charlie.
Yeah.
They seem to be struggling. What I'm hearing, Charlie, is that they're struggling big time with injuries. They're having awful luck with injuries, and just man after man just being out for games, and I suppose not a lot of depth in the squad to come through to replace them. So, on their day, like Bundoran are a decent team, but I suppose if they have everyone, no more than Danny said about Termon, if you have your best players there, if they're not in London or they're not injured, every club is the same.
But Jimmy Brennan's a huge loss.
Huge loss.
But at the same time, John, like if you're a senior club, and they have been now since 2015, I think the one, or 14 or 15, the one that intermediate, you should be building a squad. So are these injuries enough for you to go into the type of free fall they're in? Because they're not even getting close. They didn't get close to beating Milford. They didn't get close to beating Glenfin.
No.
And now
McCool's beat them comfortably in the second. I was at that game in Ballymena.
and Eunice beat them comfortably up in the. So it's not that they're running teams close. No. At that time they was the Ardra objection. Did that knock them for 6? I don't know, but
and they've struggled to field their reserve team in another championship too. So there's obviously not a big number of players there. So
Bundoran and Termon are in the last chance saloon now on Saturday night in Convoy, because the losers of that are going down to intermediate football. That'll be a big blow to either of those clubs.
It will, but you know what? I haven't seen enough of Bundoran to judge them, but what I've seen at Termon, they won't lack for grit, determination and battle. So if this comes down to which team wants to dig deep into the well, I'll be back in Termon.
Well, we'll know on Saturday night, Danny and John. Ulster ladies, I'll just mention St Eunan's beaten in a high-scoring game by Steelstown, 6-14 to 5-8. Not a bad effort by St Eunan's there, John. Robert Emmett's beaten in Moortown in Tyrone, 4-13 to 3-4. Okay, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to look forward to the action this weekend. A huge weekend, of course, with the Intermediate A and B Championship finals in O'Donnell Park, and the senior finals scheduled for McCool Park on Sunday. Rejoin us after this break. And you're welcome back, and thanks to Kelly Centre at the Mountaintop for their continued support. Just to remind you, of course, of their early bird breakfast for only €5, and of course their lunch specials $6.95, and their weekend steak specials as well. So plenty to pick from at Kelly's on the Mountaintop here. Support them, and we appreciate them supporting us. Danny, we said about the ladies. You want to give your ladies in Nivora a bit of a heads up there?
I do, Charlie. The girls have gotten us to Division 1 football. It's a great achievement for them, but due reward for a huge amount of effort those girls have put in over the last couple of years under the management of Kevin White and Neil McBride. So yeah, great, delighted for them, and a lot for them to look forward to next year. So
a few of them girls have made the breakthrough to inter-county football.
There's a number of them.
Now,
Roisin Rogers who played for the county, Karen Sharkey's on the county panel, Saoirse Boner would have been playing underage, Jade O'Donnell. There's a gang of them, Charlie, and they all came through together. They're kind of and they're a well knit group, you know. So look, it's a great achievement for them, and look, it'll be a big challenge in Division 1, but those girls won't lack for effort.
Funds and the Termins and
but sure, that's where you want to be.
That's where you want to be. Yeah. Right, where teams want to be when they start the championship. John is in the final, so we're going to look at the intermediate championship final Saturday in O'Donnell Park. Cloghaneedy against Dunlow. We would have been saying all along Leaf Columba looked as if they were the best team, but the fact that they were beaten in the semi-final has dismissed that theory. The two best teams, Cloghaneedy in their third final in a row, Dunlow bouncing back from relegation from senior to get to an intermediate final to give themselves a chance. Who's going to win it?
Difficult question, Charlie. Well, I don't know, Charlie. I just think maybe the experience might. It has to. Cloghaneedy have to do something, Charlie. You know, they have to win this year. If they lose this, the third final in a row.
We've said that often.
We've said that. No, I know, Charlie, but this is the third one. Like something has to click at some stage. They have to just be down there this week and saying, under no circumstances are we going to lose this. Whatever it takes, they have to do, Cherry. They cannot go into another final and get beat, especially playing Division 1 football. We keep saying it week in, week out. They're a Division 1 team now for 3 or 4 years. Plenty of quality there, Cherry, but on the day they've just haven't performed in the county final day. This is their third chance in a row. Same pitch every year, O'Donnell Park. The pitch is going to be good. They have no excuses, and they know that themselves. So, you know, you just think, Charlie, but that's just me saying it. Like, that's saying that if I was in Cloghaneedy's shoes, that you would think whatever it takes on Saturday afternoon in O'Donnell Park, that they're not going to leave there without that cup. But you could also argue that Dunlow maybe had the form team. You know? John,
when you've lost 2 in a row, do you take that into the next final? No matter how hard you try to dismiss it and say, that's the past, is it in your head?
In your head, Charlie. I remember 2005 and 2006, we lost 2 county finals in a row. And we went into 2007, Charlie, and the first game was away to Neve Connell and Glenties. And they beat us by about 13 points. Leo McLuhan, I think, was his first game ever. He might have scored 3 goals. And Charlie, we were on the bottom. And we were playing them 6 days later in O'Donnell Park in the return leg.
Yeah.
And we had 14 players fit. Kevin Rafferty got injured. And Brendan Kilcoyne was our manager. And we were at rock bottom, Charlie. But we mustered something. And the boys will all tell you that. And I'll say it too. Of all the days I ever played for St Eunice, in that dressing room in O'Donnell Park that day before we went out in 2007 was the best day. There was no way we were going to get beat that day, Cherry. Yeah. And we blew Glenties away, bet them in the third game, stumbled on, Cherry, to win a championship. But, you know, we stumbled, we got there, we weren't going to get beat, whatever it took, we got there. You know, Glenfinn could have beat us, Ballyshannon could have beat us, we drew with both of them, won them in the replays, and then stumbled over Glenswilly in the final.
As much as anything else?
I think so, Cherry. You know, it can get you there, you know, you got to dig deep, but, you know, there's no way Cloghaneedy can leave O'Donnell Park on Saturday getting beat again.
Yeah. You've taken teams to final and got beat, Danny, and taken them back again. How does the mentality change?
Yeah, it happened to me in 2016 with Milford. We played 2 finals that year. We drew the first one, then we lost the second one after replay. And then the year after that, we came back and beat St Knowles in the final. So, look, I think it comes down to 2 things. And I know the learning for us in terms of a group was that in the third final, which was 2017, we tweaked certain things in the preparation. Little things that probably mean nothing in the grand scale of things. So, like in the previous 2 finals, we travelled by bus. 2017, we travelled by car. That's what the players wanted. There was less hype around the parishes because it was the third final in 2 years. We wanted, I spoke to Vince and I got the same dressing room for the quarter-final, the semi-final and the final, which was the different dressing room to the 2016 final. Yeah. So little things like that, just the preparation, the warm-up was the same, the familiarity was the same. The key, I think, when that game against the Knowles, remember, was level with 5 minutes to go in the 17 final. There's nothing I did in the sideline to change that. It was that inner belief that the players, they couldn't let that one slip. They couldn't face into a dressing room.
They were too close to let it go again, Danny.
Too close to let it go again. And had they let that one go, I don't think they would have come back. to one another. That was their time to go and win the Intermediate Championship, and they did. They grabbed it by the neck themselves, and they won it by 5 points. If this game is tight on Saturday, I cannot believe that Clonheely will not be the team that digs deeper to win it. They have to be, Charlie. You cannot. I mean, dressing rooms are devastating places.
What will it say about them, Danny, if they don't? If it's tight and they don't come through?
Battlers, Charlie. Battlers.
Yeah.
No, well, that could be a wee bit harsh.
No, well,
if you think back to the final 2 years ago,
finals in a row.
Yeah, but
Johnny, call it
but
out.
2 years ago they had to play 3 games in a week.
Well, that's okay. Fair enough.
Right, so that was definitely a factor.
I'll not be popular in Bulgaria.
I'm going to try and save you here, John.
This week's complaint about you, but anyway, we're well used to that now.
So they were going into that with a disadvantage of it versus, who was it? St. Knowles, I think. Yes. Last year they played in O'Donnell Park against Irua. Now that was a COVID year, no crowd, no nothing. So you can call them excuses or whatever, right? But they are factors. This year's their first real crack at proper preparation, 2-week break. They're going to have their crowd there to support them. Up against a Dunlow team. Now, Dunlow, for me, are probably showing the best form. Best performance in the championship was against New Columba.
Yeah.
Their strength that day was in their forward line, where they're young and they're fit and athletic.
And quick.
Cloughaneely will target that and try and close that down and have enough wherewithal and experience around the pitch there to get the job done.
Yeah.
So them Dunlow lads have to deal with this excitement this week. Cloughaneely lads are not dealing with excitement, right?
I think that's a good point.
Yeah,
that
they have to deal
experience of not being up in their third final, so they won't get caught up in hype and flags and all that there. But Dunlow might be, and then on top of the hurling and a bit of goodwill factor,
the whole buzz around the place.
They'll be all chatting about the final there. So
Desi will have a really tough job in keeping them young lads grounded and saying, look, this is the job at hand. Forget about the hype. We've got to go to O'Donnell Park, play the games normal so good. Come back to Milford 2017. We just normalised that game. We didn't think of it as a county final. It was another game in the process to get a job done. So for Michael Lynch this week, it'll all be about making sure the players are focused on the game, not the third final in a row, not the pressure of losing another final. It's just about go out, get the job done. Doesn't matter how you do it, you get it done.
Yeah.
And I think if it's tight near the end, you expect. I mean, at the end of this, they still have the one county player on the pitch in Jason McGee. So this is Jason's time to step up and drag his team over the line, or Darren McGeever, or Aidan Doohan, or there's a very good player at number 7, Conor Coyle, at number 5, not sure where he plays.
5-7,
good player, Blake McGarvey inside. So they have enough quality, and I still think, even though Dunlow had the marquee performance against Glen, the fact that Cloughaneely beat Buncrana a second time showed that they were pretty serious about their business. So I tipped them at the start of the season, and I'll stick with them. I think Cloughaneely, it's not just that they have to win it, I think they will win it. I think their experience will get them over the line against this Dunlow team.
Just a final point, John, on it. They play 15 against 15. Do they do that again? Stick to what they're good at, what they know works for them. Unfortunately, the last couple of finals it didn't. Maybe individual mistakes cost them in those finals as well, you know.
That's right.
But they go out. I mean, I've always said I enjoy watching Cloughaneely play because they play old style. They go for it, like, you know.
No, I would give them credit for that, Jerry, and I would tell them to do that again. Like, why change everything now? Like, they are the favourites going into it, so they shouldn't change their whole system to suit Dunlow. I know Danny said Dunlow's forwards are good, but you know, Cloughaneely have plenty of experience there to close down them young players and, you know, make it tight for them, make it uncomfortable. So I wouldn't, you know, start telling Cloughaneely to start playing sweepers and start off cagey. I think they should go and play their game and take it to them. You know, they're the favourites, and you're favourites for a reason, Jerry, because you're supposed to have better quality, you have more experience. So, you know, you got to use that to your advantage and drive it on and put Dunlow on the back foot early. Put the doubts in their mind, because this is a young Dunlow team in a final.
Yeah, but the Dunlow strength as well comes from half back.
Aye.
The Currans, and I think if Dunlow are going to win it, it's going to be that platform for them. They'll drop Jared Walsh back, probably play as a sweeper in front of the Cloughaneely. Like big Paul Sweeney's in there is a bit of a threat, Keggs in there is a bit of a threat, but it's the ability of the Currans to drive them from, and if Noel McBride probably needs to be fit for them.
Well, he was very early in the semi-final, didn't he?
So I think Matthew Ward will probably pick up Jason McGee. So that'll be a tight battle there, but it'll be the Dunlow half back line. If they can dominate that space and get their young lads on the ball up top, with Manus Boylston coaching them in the forward line as well, so they have a bit about them up front. But I think overall, Cloughaneely's physical strength and experience, in my eyes, should see them over the line.
Cloughaneely, John.
Cloughaneely, Jerry. I know that both teams are in the B final as well. So there should be a big crowd at O'Donnell Park, Jerry, on Saturday. So
great for the two parishes.
Should be a great final,
Should be a great final. 1 o'clock for the B final, 3 o'clock for the intermediate final.
Support the half-time draw if anyone's home there.
Forward.
I'll be there.
A wee bit of a plug. Intermediate relegation, just to give a mention to that. We've been waiting a while for it. It's on in Glenfin at 2 o'clock on Saturday. Convoy against Nevilton. The winners stay in the Intermediate Championship. The losers go to Junior. These two teams have been tittering on the brink, one moving up, one moving down. If my memory serves me right, Danny, Niamh Ultan beat Niamh Colmcille to stay in this Intermediate Championship, and Convoy came up from Junior, so one of them's going back to Junior again.
It's going to be a bigger blow for Convoy, Charlie, if they go down, having come up. I think it's really important when you come up that you stay up that first year and then build from there. If they go back down, it's a long way back up again to win the Junior next year to get back to Intermediate, so that would stall their progression as a group. Niamh Ultan, they've been hovering around this for a couple of years now, so no more than Dunlow in the senior a couple of years ago. If you're there long enough or often enough, you'll eventually drop through the trap door. So I think Convoy will, for me, they'll come through that game.
Okay. Right, we'll take another break, and when we come back, we'll be looking at the Senior Championship final, Niamh Connell against St Eunan's, and of course the B Championship final, scheduled for Sunday as well, Ardrathic and on St Eunan's, and that. Rejoin us after this short break. And you're welcome back to the final section of our programme. Thanks to Kelly's at the Mountaintop, Kelly's Centre that is, for their continued support, Marcin Kelly and his staff. Great supporters of our Championship podcast. And just to remind you again of their early bird, €5 for a super breakfast over there, and the weekends with their lunches and their steak dinners. So help our supporters if you will, please. The Senior Championship final is Niamh Connell against St Eunan's. Niamh Connell going for 3 in a row. St Eunan's haven't won it in 6 years. Too long, John, for a club of their stature. Rory Kavanagh told me at the press launch last night, it's been too long.
Yeah, Charlie, 7 years, 6 years since we were in the final. 2014 was the last time we won it. This day, 7 years ago, Charlie, we won it, and then we came back the following year and Niamh Conall beat us. Too long. Well, Charlie, too long. People can say that, and absolutely too long. But it was a long time from 1983 to 1997.
A very long time.
14 years when we hadn't even been in the final when we came with that young team then, Charlie. So you have no God-given right to be in a final, Cherry, no matter how big of a club you are or how well you're going. And I suppose this last few years, we dropped off for them a few years after 2017, 16, 17, 18 maybe, and have come back now last year and this year with a somewhat new team, Cherry, that has pushed on again. And the old guard like myself have gone, and Kevin Rafferty and Colin Dunn and Rory's not playing this year, and Mick Martin and a whole lot of other boys. So Colin Dunn and Kieran Sharkey, them kind of boys. Mark McGowan's gone, Ross Wordy, them kind of players. So it's a relatively new team in ways, Charity. But
few of them been around, even Doherty, Keelan Ward, Park,
Yeah, Eamon Ward, Eamon Doherty's 5 championships, Charity. People forget that. He's still Peter Devine's back, and Connor Park, and as Danny said last week, maybe a lot of our experience is in the back line. Darryl McGrew's there has won championships as well, so plenty of experience there, Charity. Great to be back in the final, but we're up against it big time.
Have they any chance, Danny?
Yeah, they do, because if you look at finals over the years, the best team going into it doesn't always win the final. Look at Glenswilly, Kilcar 2016. Look at the hurling final last weekend. Go back to 2005, New Connell, St Eunice. St Eunice were strong favourites. So look at Tipperary and Cavan. These results can go to the underdog or the outsider. It happens. Of course it happens. And look, if you look at this New Connell team, we said it in this room, everybody said it around the county, it's a formidable team. Absolutely formidable. Everything they're doing, everything about them is serious.
You have to admire.
You have to, and I think everybody does. I think they're well admired as a group, and they've turned it around since that two in a row defeat, 17-18. That win against Gweedore 2019 has just propelled them forward as a group, and they have an awful determination and togetherness as a group, and you can just see that in them.
Oh yeah.
So they tick every box, Charlie. I would think of this today earlier. They take experience. They have a bit of youth through it. They have county players, ex-county players. They have a defensive system that's almost impossible to break down. They're a counter-attack game that's as good as anybody with the Dohertys, Jack McKelvey, these lads coming. They have a long ball option in Charles McGuinness. So every way you cut it up, they have everything, right? But I do think they still have one or two, and I'm clutching the straws here, but I think unions have to target this. They don't start games as well as I think they should. Right, if you think at quarter-final, Gweedore 2-0 up after about 10 minutes. Kilcar the last day 3-1 up, and then went 4-2 up. And Kilcar's sloppiness on the ball allowed New Connell to get their counter-attack going, and then they come out early in the second half and blitzed Kilcar. The other thing they don't do is they don't put big teams away. Because of the way they play with the 15 behind the ball, they churn out results, and they have that bit of flair, and with Kieran Thompson and Charles McGuinness' strength in the running game. But last year's team that played Unions, and Unions, remember, were 3 points up. The game went in extra time. They started that day with Dermot Malloy and Owen McGettigan, who I would consider to be marquee forwards in the old sense. They're not on the team anymore. So they don't have, for me, the weakness would be they don't have outstanding forwards. I know they might think that's weird things, but they don't have a Brendan Devaney of the old. They don't have a Michael Murphy. They don't have a Farah. They don't have that type of player. It's their team and their ability to score from deep. And Charles McGuinness at full forward, that makes them an unbelievably strong team offensively. Physically strong, but they don't have. So what I'm saying is, if Unions can hang in the game, if Unions can start the game well, survive the New Connell onslaught that's going to come, particularly early in the second half, and hang about and still be there with 10 to go,
they've got a chance. Well,
look back to Kilcar semi-final. Kieran Thompson pulls off a goal line block to stop Kilcar getting that game level before McBurty has the goal disallowed, right? So they leave good teams hanging in games. So if Unions are still there with 10 to go, maybe this year they'll get a bit of luck to get them over the line. And that'll be Rory's message to the lads. Stay in the game as long as you possibly can. And if you look at the way they played them, and we kind of complained at times that they're very possession-based, the way they'll play on Sunday will be very similar. They'll keep the ball for long periods. New Connell will give them the ball. I think they'll give them the ball a lot of the time. Where Unions need to be better is they need to be braver in taking it on past the 45, getting bodies ahead of the ball, willing to take that risk. Because if they don't take that risk,
they won't get enough
they're
scores,
not going to get enough scores. And New Connell will eventually break them down.
Yeah.
So Eunice had to be that bit braver than they've been. And if they do show that bravery, I mean, we're not talking here about complete underdogs. Like Eunice's 15 players are very good footballers.
Yeah.
And the forward line is a good forward line with Niall O'Donnell, Shane O'Donnell, Conor Duck, Young McGeehan. They have scoring ability, and they've got threat coming from deep with Keelan Ward, Connor Park, if Eamon Doherty's playing. So Eunice are not a bad football team. They're a very, very strong team.
Yeah.
But they come up against this formidable machine in New Connell. But they have to put three performances back to back here. They beat Gweedore, beat Kilcar, do it again. They probably can because they are that type of outfit. Yeah. But if they come off it a wee bit and Unions rise it, then you're in for a cracking final.
Unions within a point of them in the last couple of times they've met in semi-finals, so the gap isn't as big as some people might suggest, John. But I think Niamh Connell have certainly improved since those performances. Yeah. Have St Eunice improved as significantly to make it as close?
Well, that's the big question, Charlie, because no doubt Niamh Connell have improved a lot since last year. They've come on through COVID, won the county final and blown teams away this year. Have St Eunice improved? They have improved, Charlie, but how much have they improved? I suppose we've got the luck of the draw in the draw that we haven't met one of the big teams, so St Eunice haven't been tested. We were tested against Kilcar and we fell short. Now I remember saying here after that game that maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Rory's seen a few things, maybe players out of position or who came on or did he finish with the strongest 15, so I thought that might have been a blessing in disguise, and I think it was. I think Rory's found his best 15 or horses for courses as such, Jerry. What's going to work against certain teams, and Rory's good at that. So St Eunice definitely have improved. As Danny says, I think we've got good forwards. I think sometimes we're slow enough to get it into them. I think Owen McGeehan's a serious operator. Have he got more ball? Niall and Shane O'Donnell are good players, young Conor Duck. So we have quality, Charlie, but it's just, it's the experience of a big match against Glenties in a county final when that pressure's on, like who's going to make mistakes or who's not going to make mistakes, who's going to be able to hold on to the ball. And as Danny says, I have to agree with a lot of what Danny says, we have to be braver than we have been. I've seen glimpses of that against St Michael's, that we were braver against St Michael's than we were against St Knowles. And I think
you have to be in it with 10 minutes to go. Do you have any chance?
You have to be in it with 10 minutes to go, Charlie, and anything can happen then. And from my own experience, Charlie, like 97 we were underdogs, massive outsiders. 99 again against Ballyshannon we were out. They had won it in 98, so we were complete outsiders again in 99 and we won it. Went in as favourites, as Danny says, more times than enough, and got beat. I'd say maybe in 2012 we might have been maybe a 50-50 game against Niamh Connell. So St John's have a good enough record going in as underdogs, Charlie. So I would be saying that to the boys. And as Danny said about the hurlers, it's given everyone a great lift. The template's there. They have to go, Charlie, and give it everything. If I was Rory chatting to the boys, what I would say going into a county final is who's going to be the man of the match? Who's going to make their mark in this game? Who's going to be the hero? Someone's going to have to step up. Who's going to step up, Charlie? People say they play like robots and they're that well trained and they're given jobs, but somewhere, Cherry, you got to get out of that there and say, right, here's my chance. I'm going to do something different. Kick a point with outside of the boot, go past a man and bury it. Do something that's off script, because that's what it's going to take. If you stay to the script, Cherry, it's going to be very, very hard. You need that wee bit of flair, some man to step up and have the game of his life. And that's what, from a St Eunice point of view, I'd be looking for our boys to do. And
from a tactical point of view as well, there's a decision Glenties or Niamh Connell have to make in terms of Sean Patton. Niamh Connell like to press up on kickouts and dominate that breaking ball and get the runners off it. If you push up against Sean Patton,
he'd pass you by.
And I'm sure Unions have a game plan where if Niamh Connell push up on us, we can hit 40, 50, 60 yard kickouts to a Niall O'Donnell coming from full forward. So if Niamh Connell drop off and give Unions the ball, Unions will keep the ball, John. They will keep it for long spells. So you could end up watching a very, very cagey game.
And on TV and people giving out. But as Danny, you've said it all along that you think that Rory has got this game plan for a one-off for a big game.
I think so, yeah.
And they're not going to... I'm saying here that I want someone to break the mould and do something different. But if the game is level, Cherry, no one from St Eunice is going to do something silly. They're going to be in the game and they're going to hold on and they're going to do what they're supposed to be doing, and it's going to be over and back, and it's not going to make for a great spectacle, Charlie, but
a lot of finals don't.
No, exactly.
Right, we're going to have to wrap it up. Danny, who's going to win it?
Look, if you dice it up, Charlie, Niamh Connell are the form team. They've shown their players are playing at the top of their game. it will take a huge effort from St Eunan's to win it. But these things can happen. We said this earlier.
Yeah.
Look, I'll declare my bias. I'm in the town over 25 years. I've been, like Kieran Tobin, Owen Dowling. I coached them since under 6 up to minor. And I remember chatting that group saying, someday, boys, you'll be in a county final for your club.
Yeah.
And what a place that'll be for them to be in. So, heart-wise, I'd love to see Eunan's win it. But the head suggests it's New Connell. They are so hard to beat, Charlie.
John, well, your heart's going to say
well,
St. Eunan's.
exactly, but Danny's right. Jerry, if you were put my life on it, you'd have to say Neve Connell. There's no other, and that's not me blowing them up. They are a great team, and they've got the performances so far, and they're the team on form. We've commented onto the radar, but we have a chance, Jerry, and I'll be a nervous wreck in McCool Park on Sunday, but far easier playing, Jerry, than watching. That's what I've discovered.
Absolutely.
And just.
This is New Connell's 5th final in a row. You can't buy that experience.
Absolutely. Well, Martin Regan, Neil Goller said when he was on, very smart, the way he's tactical and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think he makes a very good point. They've gone in as underdogs and paid no attention to it. They've gone in as favourites and they don't pay any attention to it either, because he says once the ball's thrown in, it doesn't matter who's underdogs or who's favourites. The match is there to be won.
Yeah, I heard that interview with you, Charlie. I heard him
very
say making
sensible
that
approach to it, isn't
and
it?
one thing about that New Connell management team, it is the perfect manager for that group. He's very understated, lets everything happen and keeps them very grounded and very motivated. So this Eunan's team are capable of winning a county final, but they're coming up against a formidable
team we've seen for a long time.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%, yeah.
Okay, 3:15, it's on TG Cahir Live, and if you want to hear the views of Rory Kavanagh and Martin Regan regarding their final, you can see it on our Facebook page, Donegal Sport Hub Facebook, and we also have Michael Lynch and Desi Gallagher from the Cloughaneely and Dundalk clubs on there as well. We talked to them at the press launch last night, so that's on our Facebook page if you want to hear those views. Thanks to the lads for coming in. Just to remind you, of course, there's a B final scheduled for the weekend as well. That's St Eunan's against Ardra. That's scheduled as we speak for 5:15, but possibility of a change there. But at the moment, 5:15 after the senior final in McCool Park. So that's it. Thanks to Kelly Centre again at the Mountaintop for their continued support. Thanks to Tommy Conway here at Full Tilt Studios at the Mountaintop also for looking after us as usual. We'll be back next week with our very final championship podcast, and we'll have plenty to talk about next week. Let's see who gets it right, and more importantly, let's see who complains about Danny and John during the week that's ahead of us. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next week. the Donegal Sport Hub Donegal Daily Championship Podcast. Brought to you in association with Kelly Centra, multi-award winning store, Mountaintop Letterkenny, providing 24-hour service 7 days a week.